Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni!
Fires upfield into the end zone, and it's caught. Jelani Woods, touchdown! INDY!
A 43-point night for Tyrese Halliburton.
How do you like that, partner?
Galloway drives all the way to the hole, throws it up.
Got it!
Indiana's got their first lead of this contest.
I mean, that's a goddamn Emmy winner right there.
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hey, everybody, welcome aboard. Appreciate you being here on this Wednesday. It's November 1st. Happy November. Appreciate you being on board with us here. Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Of course, coming from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, I'm your host, Jim Coyle. Of course, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, powered by Andy Moore Honda. Make sure you go to andymoorehonda.com. Get more to your door and the best in new and used vehicles. And the restaurants of Wild Food Group. Great places like the Ugly Gripper. Chop Shop, home of the men's basketball, football, women's basketball. Coaches shows was there this past Monday night. Great crowd. Woody was there in all of his glory. Terry Morin. Fun time. Saw lots of peeps. John Boy, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great. Happy November, as you said earlier.
Yeah. I've got a head start on No Shave November, but
Oh, yeah. Movember, as some people call it. I tell you what, I was talking about this.
Movember?
That's what I've heard some people refer to it as Movember.
What's Movember?
I think it's when people just grow out their mustache. I believe that's what that means.
Baloney.
In awareness for testicular cancer, I believe. Anyway,
well, that's
talking about
I did not hear
getting
that.
a head start on No Shave November. I have not shaved my face fully since fall of 2019. And I've been talking about this with somebody. There's a chance that I'm going to start the beginning of the year clean shaven for the first time in 4 years, just to see what I look like. It's been a long time since I've seen myself without facial hair.
I think that we should do that on the air.
Shave on the air?
Yes.
That'd be interesting, wouldn't it?
Well, you could take the I shave I don't know. I don't even know. I just take the trimmer and just keep it.
And sometimes I'll trim things up or just shape it up to make it look more neat. But it's been a while since I've done the clean shaven thing, as I said.
Well, we'll look forward to that. Can't wait. The college football playoff reveal has come. Little surprise there for me. The Ohio State Buckeyes at the top. I'm surprised because I just thought Georgia would just be their pick because it's the SEC and all of that, yada, yada. No. So I love the surprise. But Ohio State reigns at number 1. Number 2 was Georgia. Michigan, number 3, followed by Florida State, filling out the top 4, followed by Washington and Oregon. Then you've got the usual suspects behind them. I don't have the exact list in front of me at the moment, actually, right now. But Alabama was there. Oklahoma still up there at number 8, I believe. So
here I've got the list in front of me. Yeah, Oklahoma's 9, Ole Miss is 10,
yes.
Penn State 11, Missouri 12, and our friends down at Louisville, number 13.
Which tells me the only way the ACC gets a member in is if Florida State is able to beat Louisville in the ACC championship.
As things stand, that's probably correct. But
Louisville is not going to jump up from 18. Louisville's not going to jump up 18 spots. Not with the schedule they play.
Not
They
18
don't play
spots.
anybody.
It-
Well, that's
it's not 18. They're 13.
14 or
They
whatever.
would jump up 9 spots. The only way Louisville would get in is if a bunch of teams started losing and they didn't lose the rest of the way. That's their only path in.
Yeah,
as it stands right now, that's not likely going to happen, obviously.
Yeah, it's and here's the thing. Georgia. Now, the one thing that they don't generally drop teams really far out of that. If you're in the top of the spot, okay, Ohio State's number 1. Let's say they lose to number 3 Michigan. Do they drop them out of the top 4?
I don't think so. Again, it would depend. You're looking weeks ahead at that point, and you never know what's going to happen to their teams. Will Washington take a loss between now and then? Will Georgia lose?
Now that's the only now that's one that could definitely happen because Washington is one of the only teams that actually has a hard ass schedule, along with Oregon. Anybody from the Pac-12. The Pac-12 is so different this year because they have a gauntlet of teams. But if you look at number 1, Ohio State, their biggest win is over Notre Dame. How big is that win actually?
Notre Dame, they struggled a few weeks ago, but ever since their loss to Louisville, they've responded by coming out and blowing teams out of the water. They killed USC. I can't remember who else I can give you in just a second, but they haven't looked like an issue since they lost to Louisville. Oh yeah, they also blew Pitt, who also beat Louisville, frankly enough. They beat Pitt 58-7 after Pitt beat Louisville.
All right, Notre Dame is down at 15. They're not a player.
Not at the moment, no. And I doubt that they they have 2 losses. Yes. They're definitely not a player. They're
not a player. Anybody that's that far down is simply not a player. That's what I mean by that. You've got to be within reach. Now, Oklahoma, after getting beat by Kansas, they're still within reach. But they're going to need help. But if you look ahead, the Pac-12, the toughest and the best conference in college football this year, does not have a team in the top 4. I find that interesting. I find that a little bit of a travesty because if you look at Michigan's strength of schedule, do you know what it is?
It's one of the worst in the country. I know that.
111th.
Wow.
It's awful. Or Ohio State, on the other hand, their strength of schedule just doesn't have it in front of me, but I remember it. It's not nearly as bad, and I'm going to say mainly because, they played Notre Dame. Did they play anybody else preseason that was tough? I can't recall.
I don't believe so.
But Notre Dame, the sheer fact that they played and beat number 15 Notre Dame on this list gives them a little bit of cash. I'm like, okay, I get that. Georgia, they're in the SEC, so that's good enough for me.
And they're Michigan, also back-to-back reigning national champions.
They haven't been beat since they haven't been beat since you were born. So that counts too. Michigan, though, has beaten no one. They're also in the middle of another cheating scandal. We'll talk more about that. And Florida State, I can't say that I have a problem with Florida State, but I have a problem with Washington not being in the top 4. They have the best win of anybody in front of them. They beat Oregon, who's right behind them at number 6, and handed Oregon their only loss. Oregon might be the best team in the Pac-12. Should have won that game probably. If Washington has to get through a gauntlet yet, and if Washington, let's just say Washington is able to get through their upcoming schedule, which includes playing at USC this weekend, playing Oregon State coming up, playing Utah, all top 25 teams, top 20 teams. These are Utah's dangerous. Oregon State dangerous. USC
Two of those
at
games
USC.
on the road as well.
Yeah, one of those at the Coliseum this weekend against USC, but who has looked mere mortals lately. Washington does not look strong. This is a week Washington needs to come back out, look strong again, and do something. But if they beat yet another team of that stature, reigning Heisman champion on this team, I'm like, okay, they've beaten. Is USC even? They're not even in the.
They're number 20.
Oh, you got to be kidding me!
Yep.
Wow. Okay, so if Washington ends up having 2 wins, if they beat USC this week, that would give them 2 wins over teams in the college football playoff top 20. Nobody else has that to my knowledge. And how's that team not your number 1 team?
And here's the thing. If Washington wins out their schedule and goes 12-0 plus winning their conference championship, becoming 13-0, it will be, even if some of these other teams, even if Florida State goes unbeaten, even if Michigan or Ohio State go unbeaten, even
they can't.
I hate to, maybe Georgia doesn't play into this, but if Washington goes unbeaten, they're going to jump a couple of these teams and be a higher seed, and they'll be in the top 4 because surely by their wins alone. By their wins alone, they will be.
John, if Washington goes unbeaten on their schedule, they should be number 1.
And maybe they should be. I don't know that they would do that unless they're the only unbeaten.
There's no maybes. That would be a schedule that is unparalleled amongst all these others, unmatched. Their quarterback leads the nation in passing yards. They have one of the most prolific offenses in the country. There's a little bias against them right now. Why is Michigan thought to be so good? What have they done? What have they done? They started up at the top. That's the problem.
Yep.
Because of perception. They have the worst, weakest freaking schedule on the docket. And this has nothing to do with the cheating scandal. But they haven't done jack. Reward teams that have done something. Washington has done something already, beating the number 6 team in the college football playoffs. But yeah, of course, if they go unbeaten, that means that would mean they've beaten Oregon, Utah, Oregon State, USC, and then they'll have to beat Oregon again in the. Let's say that they beat all those teams, John, and they get to the Pac-12 championship. But let's say they've already beaten Oregon once. That's already happened. Let's say they beat USC, who's ranked.
All 3 of the teams they play in the
let's
next
say
the top 20.
Then they beat Oregon State, who's ranked 16th. Then they have to play. Utah dropped out.
No, Utah's number
18. Okay, let's say they beat Utah number 18. Let's say they beat those teams in the regular season, but lose to Oregon in the Pac-12 championship game for a single
At that
loss.
point, you're probably talking about 2 Pac-12 teams in the playoff, I would think.
That's the way it should be, and I agree with you. But how much do you want to bet? I just don't know that they'll have the cojones to do that, simply because right now, Michigan has not done crap and does not deserve to be in the top 3. I'm sorry. They just haven't. They have not played anyone. They've not beaten anyone. So instead of going on preseason predictions, and I'm glad they wait till now to start this, but I'm Washington's. I think they're getting screwed already, as the Pac-12 is. The Pac-12 is the best conference in the country, yet they're at 5-6. So there's that. We've got to take a break. Thank you so much for being here with us. We appreciate everybody jumping on the Andy Moore Honda hotline early and often. Fred, of course, from Easton. Heath is down in Danville. Says it's cold down there. Kent from Mount Pleasant, Michigan. Pete says happy hump day. Jamie on from Grand Rapids. Josh McDaniels being fired. I didn't see that. So he's not the only guy getting the axe. There's another one I was going to talk about. 5 laps on and added. Las Vegas, Larry is aboard. Bob from down at Georgetown, Indiana. Philip pointing out Ohio State already has wins over Penn State and Notre Dame. There you go. I forgot about the Penn State win. So, yeah, Ohio State.
I thought about bringing it up, but I thought you were going to say Penn State sucked. So
no, they are. I think that they're overrated, which is sad. Even sadder to say for the Big Ten. We'll talk more about it later, but yeah. John from Southport. Kevin's on down in Jeffersonville in the southern part of the state. And Rudy, the boxer, back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. All right, I'm going to go make some coffee, so I'll be right back.
Make some for me. I can't get down and back in time, but I'm going to try. I'm going to set it up for the next time.
All right, I'm back.
See, you didn't make coffee. You got coffee.
No, I made coffee. I usually have it made already.
You must have a K-cup
for the day. No, I don't have mine yet. It's dripping. I'll have it at the next commercial break.
I just got mine ready to make it the next one.
Oh, so you're still behind me. Okay.
Well, I just got to hit the button.
Why didn't you hit the button then?
Because it would have been sitting down there for this entire segment.
Oh, okay. All right, here we go.
$299. That's right. Play as many rounds as you like for just $299. That's better than a birdie. But you don't have to be a student to play at Eagle Point. Go online to set your tee time or call 812-824-4040. The Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by RE/MAX Advanced Realty, Indie Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore.
Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios from high atop the 18th fairway on this Hump Day Wednesday. Normally, we've got Dylan Sin sitting in with us from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette, but he had he's on assignment today and could not join us. So it's just you and I. Isn't that how that song goes?
I'm sure. I feel like that's a music cliche. It's just you and me. It's just
No,
you and I. I feel like there's plenty of songs that say that.
There's a particular song. I'm looking at a post of he's a friend of the show, I'd say, Dan Dawkins.
Yeah.
A funny Twitter post that he's celebrating Michigan being the best school in America to be a coach. Cheat, suspended, hire cyber criminals, hire racists, 1-6 in bowl games, 2-5 versus Ohio State, hire sign stealing twerp, get contract extension. President takes picture with team and behind Harbaugh all the way. Wow. He's got his Michigan toboggan on.
It is interesting that it just seems like all it took was the weekend for people to stop talking about the Michigan situation. Like it.
No, that is not stopped at all, because now, if you have not seen the latest that came out yesterday, Central Michigan is investigating whether or not that Connor Stallions was on their sidelines, unbeknownst to them, for their game against Michigan State. It's nuts. And the funny thing is, there's a picture of like the head coach talking to somebody, and there's another assistant, and then like kind of right behind them is another dude dressed just like the coaching staff. And they're investigating whether or not that is Connor Stallions, the Michigan spy. And if that is the fact, that is going to be that just sends this thing into orbit. It's nuts. There are photos. Controversial Michigan staffer Connor Stallions remains a national man of mystery. This is from the New York Post. Stallions is at the center of the brouhaha, which Michigan stands accused of stealing signs from rivals, but it's gone so much further than that, of course. Earlier this week, photos began circulating alleging that Stallions was on Central Michigan's sideline for the team's season opener against Michigan State. First of all, if you're scouting against Michigan State, you suck. Because Michigan State is at the bottom of the bottom right now. I mean, you would have no more reason to scout Michigan State than you would Indiana at the moment. Central Michigan's athletics director, Amy Folin, announced Tuesday the school is investigating the matter. Quote, we became aware of these photos late yesterday, and we are in the process of determining the facts around them. We have no further comment at this time. He had to have had help. Now I'm looking at a video. He had to have had help. Oh, it's so funny. In that video I just watched, he was doing this. The play came out of bounds, kind of where he was and where he was standing, and you can see him grab his hat and pull it down over his face. Oh my. But he had to have had help from someone on the Central Michigan staff. He's credentialed. He's wearing a Central Michigan ball cap and the same exact uniform that those coaches are wearing, which is a gray Adidas pullover shirt and black pants. And he's standing amongst the coaches. Now, I doubt he could have accomplished all of that, especially with a head coach in view. And this is going to be interesting to see how this comes out. I cannot just this part alone. I cannot wait. But of course, Jim Harbaugh, I know nothing. I know nothing. He knows nothing. It's just a little, crazy, I guess you'd say. There's just no way that he didn't know. This cannot end well. And I'm looking for something, daggone it, I saw a minute ago on where coaches, there was a poll taken. I think this may have been on The Athletic. Let me go back away from my anyway, I wish I could find that, but 94% of the coaches that were asked said that Michigan needs to be punished. I'll keep looking for that, but so much going on in football this year. Clemson's stinking, and Indiana fans are not happy about football, but Clemson fans are up in arms because they're not going to win a national championship this year. They're not going to be in the college playoffs.
And they're not even in the rankings, the CFP rankings right now.
No, they stink. But I shouldn't say they stink. But it's not going well. I mean, Dabo, like I said yesterday, he exploded on what he called a smart-ass Clemson fan. They're not used to being called out. They're used to having that gravy train life. Well, welcome to the world of that. But daggone, I really want to find that whoever had that about the coaches, because that's a high number, 94%. Now, will something happen this year? If it's by the NCAA, hell no. Talking to somebody last night who used to work in college athletics, IU athletics, high up, their opinion and is that they thought maybe their only hope, and I agreed, is that the Big Ten will step in and do something. And the only problem with that is, I say, yeah, I believe that, but they will not do it until after the result of the Michigan-Ohio State game. Do you know why? Because if Michigan happened to win that game and Ohio State lost, even though this goes back to the poll again. All right, if Ohio State's at number 1 and they lose to number 3, are they going to get pushed out of all 4 spots?
If there are enough unbeaten teams left, I would say maybe. I don't know for sure, but maybe.
See, in normal years, that wouldn't happen. In normal years, Ohio State, if they lost to Michigan and that was ends up being their only loss, which it will be since they've already beaten Penn State and Notre Dame, normally there's no way they would drop out at 4. But this is the year that they needed the 12-team playoff. Because it's not just Ohio State. It's Florida State. It's, the teams that are in the middle there already. Georgia.
There's several teams that are outside the top 4 that
Oregon, Washington.
They're good enough to be in that top 4.
Alabama. What if Alabama beats Georgia?
Yeah.
I mean, then you're going to have all of these one-loss teams. You could potentially have Ohio State with 1 loss, and that loss coming to the 3rd-ranked team in the college football playoffs. Well, normally that would not in any way drop them down. Now, the only team, if Florida State, they would need help from the ACC. Florida State, if they beat Louisville, the ACC is going to get skunked. They're not going to get in.
If you're saying if they're not undefeated, or if they, what are you saying about
Florida State lose? Well, the only time that they'll face Louisville in the ACC championship.
Yes, if Louisville wins out.
Yes, which they don't even have to win out, do they? To get to they're probably pretty high up in this ACC standings.
There's a couple teams. They already lost to one of the worst teams in their conference. So, here, the thing with Louisville is they can beat anybody on their schedule, but they can also lose to anybody on their schedule. They're a very weird team like that. So, even though they have a good path, they have a road matchup with Miami here in a few weeks, and that'll be tough. Even though Miami's not as good as they were thought to be at the beginning of the season, that'll just be a tough matchup in general, based on the situation and the pressure and that kind of thing.
Yeah. So it's and there's time. How many weeks we got left? Do we have left? 4 weeks left?
Yes, 4 to 5 weeks, I believe. Yes.
And let me say again, I love the fact that the real poll does not come out until now. Unfortunately, there's no way that it is not influenced by the human polls. No way. If those polls did not exist, there's no way that this poll looks like it does right now. I would say Ohio State could still be number 1. Georgia could still be number 2 because they've earned it. I think Washington would be number 3. Florida State would be number 4. Oregon would move up. It would be similar, but different. Michigan, I don't know if they would be in the top 5. Well, they would be, I would put them at 6. Only because they're unbeaten, because I think Oregon's better than Michigan. But I think that they would be in the 6th, in the 5th spot, because they play nobody. No one. 111th is their strength of schedule. So when you don't do anything, you don't deserve anything. And they would have their shot at beating Ohio State, who has 2 big wins. But 94% of the coaches would think that Michigan should be punished. Will that happen? That's another question for I think it should. But I just don't know that anyone has the onions to upset the gigantic apple cart that is college football. We're talking money-making behemoth machines here. And dang, I wish I could find that. I just saw it earlier.
Break.
We've got to take a break. I'll look for it at that time. Hope you guys are having a good day. We're looking forward to it. Kyle Neddenriep joins us later. Back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Damn it, where is that?
I'm gonna go grab my coffee now.
Oh, me too. Shit. You're right. I should have made it. Hey,
Yes.
if there's any way you can pull up a clip off of Todd Leary yesterday and it's at the end where he says that about Mackenzie and Baco.
About the shooting.
Yes. It's
It sounded weird the way I worded that. About his shooting ability.
yeah. It's right. It's toward the end.
I know what you're talking about.
That's just great.
Yeah, if Kyle
just a
comes
great
on,
clip.
I'll try and pull that up while you're all talking.
Where in the hell did I see that? There we go.
All right.
All right.
Kyle's here.
I'll be right
Morning,
back.
Kyle. I think
Morning.
Jim's going to get coffee.
What's that?
I think Jim just hopped up to get coffee.
Oh,
we'll get
okay.
started here in about a little over a minute. We'll be back
No
from
problem.
break.
Hail, hail. Kyle Neddenriep is here.
Morning.
How are you, sir?
I'm full of Halloween candy.
Oh, man. See, now, who's in charge? I need to save this. That's a good question.
Best Halloween candy?
No, who's in charge of buying the Halloween candy in your house?
All right, here we go, guys. 10 seconds.
You're making the right choice with Garnish Catering. Visit garnishcatering.com. That's garnishcatering.com. Garnish Catering is a proud partner of Wow Food Group. This segment is brought to you by the Ugly Grouper. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Hey, welcome back. Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this hump day. It's November 1st. Man, I hate to say that. Whew. That means cold weather's on its way. Hell, it's already here for that matter. But we were going to warm it up. Kyle Neddenriep from the Indy Star with us. How are you, my friend?
I'm good. I agree. It seems like we get shortchanged on the October. I mean, I wish October could stretch out a few more weeks.
Well, it seems like it wasn't so bad this year, but it just goes from right here to here. I'm like, oh man, just ease. You got to ease me into that. You can't just throw me into it's not the fire. It's the opposite way. But hey, what a I don't have any control over that, unfortunately. How was Halloween at the Neddenriep household?
You know, it was a little lighter. Usually we get a ton of kids. We're on the corner of a street, so we get a ton usually. We got to be the most high traffic house in the neighborhood, but I would say it was down because of the weather, the wind a little bit. We still had a good amount, but normally we're out of candy, and this year we still had about a half. We had 2 buckets full. We have a half a bucket probably left, so not too bad.
So other than this year, is it still a thing? I mean, is kids still getting out normally?
Oh yeah, it was.
That's good. Good to hear.
Yeah, it's good. I only had one of my sons is not going anymore. The other one, he did go. So we're about out of the Halloween.
How old is the one that's not going?
16.
See, acceptable. Did he go? Did he go last year?
He did, and my 15-year-old did go. So
John, where's John? John, if you're we've been talking about this because he had a discussion on a podcast he does with Mitchell Page, our friend Mitchell Page, about what is the appropriate age to stop trick-or-treating. And I said 15. You go till you're 15, and that's it. That's your last year. That's like your graduation year. Because the next year you're able to drive. And if you can drive, no Halloween candy for you. You're done.
And Mitchell admitted to doing it until he was 17 years old, junior and senior in high school. But he said it was more of like a going around pranking people, but also getting candy kind of thing.
Well, and I will say, I mean, there were probably 16, 17-year-old kids that I saw that I gave candy out to last night.
And I'm fine too if they want to make the trip.
Yeah. In the cold, I mean, I'll give them credit. I mean, they were dressed up. I mean, honestly, my 15-year-old, all he wore was a Detroit Tigers sweatshirt and baseball hat. I don't even know I was like, what are you supposed to be? He's like a baseball player. I'm like,
that's the one thing. I'm like, going, wait a minute. If you're going to go though, you can't. You got to get into it. You can't jip it. So next year, but this may have been his last year. We'll see.
I don't. Yeah, I kind of wonder. But he's got a lot of friends in the neighborhood, so I don't.
That makes a difference. That's part of it. Who's in charge of buying the Halloween candy at your house?
Oh, definitely my wife. I don't.
I would see. That's where I would definitely would intervene there to make sure that Reese cups were being purchased. Especially if you and say, hey, we probably need, that might not be enough. We'll make sure you get plenty. Because if you have leftovers, you definitely want the kind, you don't want the coconut mounds or Tootsie Rolls or that kind of stuff. You want the good stuff, baby.
My wife buys the month leading up to Halloween, she'll buy Reese's and then hide them from, like, they're hidden in different places, so I don't get to them because and I'm not supposed to eat all that stuff anymore anyway. So
none of us are.
But I do. But if I find them, I'll eat them, and it's problematic. But no, she definitely doesn't hold back. And like I said, we normally run out of candy, and we buy quite a bit. So, but this year we have some left over, and I guess I'll be taking care of that in the next couple of weeks.
Sounds good. Big weekend of football last weekend. Where did I still have the scores I wrote down. My Highlanders, after a good year, they're gone, baby. It doesn't take long. That's the thing about the playoffs. They're sudden. You lose, you're gone. After an 8-1 season, Floyd lost to Evansville North. New Albany lost to Castle, so those two are going to play this week. Bloomington South and North getting back together after number 1 North had taken down South earlier in the year. South, I guess they were still number 3, but they reversed the tables in the playoffs, and they beat North 44-31. You have an Evansville Rights and Memorial who will go on after beating Bedford North Lawrence and Jasper. But then a ton of games up in the Indianapolis metropolitan area. Pike over Avon in overtime. Lawrence North with the win. Center Grove with a big win. Hamilton Southeastern wins big. Fishers wins big. Westfield Cathedral was a decent game, or Carmel rather. Carmel going down, man. Noblesville, Zionsville, Cathedral with a huge win over North Central. But here's the game, and I haven't gotten to the big game. Ben Davis, I will. But Brebeuf Jesuit and Lebanon, 70-49.
Yeah.
I'm like, I saw that, and I'm like, wait a minute. The losing team had 49 points
I know.
and lost by 21? That is insane.
Yeah, so I went over to I covered cross country state at Terre Haute on Saturday, and I saw their AD, Brebeuf's AD, Ted Hampton, and they actually had their boy Cameron Todd won the boys race of the cross country state, and I was just talking to him a little bit, and I was like, man, I saw your score. It's going to take me 3 hours to go through the stats because I haven't digested everything yet. But yeah, they're a team that, back-to-back weeks. If you notice last week, they beat Northview 55-50. So they're basically playing arena ball in the playoffs, and they've given up 600 yards in each of their wins in the sectional round. So it's been amazing, what they're just obviously they're an offensive team this year. The past couple of years, honestly, they've been really good defensively, but they've lost a lot of talent from those teams. And they made it to state a couple of years ago. They played Brady Allen from Gibson Southern and lost, but they were right there in the state finals. But this team's going to have to outscore people, obviously, and they have a really interesting game this week too against Mooresville, which I don't know if they'll be able to stop Mooresville, and I don't, and they're just going to have to kind of play the same way. But yeah, that was 70-49, and Lebanon had a kid, Caden Lark, who just had a huge game, and I put him up for our player of the week, even in a loss. I think he's the only player I put up with the loss, but he had huge numbers receiving, and he had 2 interceptions in that game. But yeah, Brebeuf's, it'll be fun to see what they do this week and moving forward, because obviously they can score a ton. They just can't stop anybody, and sort of the nature of the makeup of their team this year.
Yep. And then, of course, the big game, number 3, Ben Davis takes down number 1, Brownsburg, but that's just not the story. They were down 18 in the fourth quarter and scored 3 times to come back for that win. That had to be a madhouse.
It was, it was a emotional sort of turn of events. And, right when, Brownsburg on the first play of the fourth quarter, they, Garrett Sherrill, who he went over 2,000 yards on the season, had a great season, and he 45-yard run on the first play of the fourth quarter. They go up 25-7. And I'm right in that moment. I'm like, I've seen, so I tweeted this out even. I was like, I've seen some crazy games here. This game's not over, but it feels like Ben Davis has to score on this next drive. And then it could get interesting, because honestly, the big thing to me was that Ben Davis, even though Sherrill had 167 yards, he had 2 long touchdown runs. Other than that, they were really holding him to, most of his carries were 0, 1, 2. He didn't break off those normal, 5, 6, 7, 8 yarders that he normally does. So I was like, if they can score here, it could get interesting. They go down, score, they get a 25-14 game. And then the big play, and I think the play that people will remember from this game is Mark Zachary's pick 6. 2 plays later into Brownsburg's next drive, Mark Zachary returns it 20 yards for a touchdown. And then all of a sudden it's 25-21 or 25-20. And Ben Davis still had 8.5 minutes left. So it kind of felt at that point, the way Brownsburg kind of walked off the field there, and it's, shoulders down a little, heads down a little bit. It just felt like, this is a game now. And it was just a matter of time. Brownsburg had no first downs in the fourth quarter other than that touchdown run on the first play. That they couldn't grind out yards and even 1 or 2 first downs. So just really a stunning comeback. And Ben Davis, they got Nyland Brown back last week, who's going to Kent State. Very good linebacker, huge leader for that team. And, he was the one making those tackles on Sherrill to keep him from breaking off those mid-range, those 5, 6, 7, 8 yarders. And he was such a sure tackler. It made a huge difference. So it was, again, I wrote last week about seeding the tournament and this is kind of a prime example. I mean, that felt like a semi-state game. I'm not saying Ben Davis is going to state, because they still have some teams they're going to run into who are really good, like Cathedral or Lawrence North, and then down the road, probably Center Grove. So it's not a done deal, but that game should have been a regional or a semi-state. I mean, I just don't understand still why we have 4 games last Friday of number 1 versus number 3. I mean, why are we doing it? There's a better way to do this tournament.
Yes.
It would take some work to sort of not take a sledgehammer to it, but you can't just keep the thing as it is now and just seed the sectionals. That's not enough change to me.
Well, even if they just do the 6A, I think that is something that they have to look at. And I don't care about you got to do it for us too. No, you don't. I'm sorry. Nope, you just don't. This is real life. And this is, it's just bigger. So do 6A, maybe 5A, but I don't know about that. 6A is got to be seeded, man. For one, there are just a ton of good teams, and then it's kind of top heavy. At times it can get like the Big Ten is right now.
Well, and I think if you're going to do it, just do 5A and 6A. But I agree, like 6A, and I went out through last week and I kind of seeded it just by Sagarin. I mean, you don't have to go by Sagarin, but it's sort of a good, at least sort of a model of like what you could do. And then you could change it based off if you have a committee or whatever to figure it out. But when you go through and actually do it by Sagarin, I just seeded, I think the way to do it is you seed top 16 on the north, or the 16 teams on the north, 16 in the south, and you seed those 1 through 16. And kind of the argument you hear is, they're going to travel, all this travel doesn't even come into really a fact. It doesn't change anything really. You already have HSC and Fishers going to Fort Wayne. You already have some, Jeffersonville doesn't have anybody to play. They're coming up to play, Center Grove or Columbus North or Franklin Central. So, travel to me, it's a moot point. You're already spread out. There's already only 32 teams. You're going to have some travel, but most of these teams are Central Indiana in 6A, and 5A is a little bit more spread out, but not a ton. So I think you could do it. And my point is like, just do a 2-year trial run, see what 5A and 6A looks like in a seeded bracket. See if it makes sense to do it this way. If no one likes it, then you could go back, but you're really not changing. You're not changing the travel at least, but I think you're going to end up with a more, just a better tournament. Is that the whole point to me, is to have a better tournament, have better games later, as it stands now. And I'm not going to name teams, but you have teams playing for sectional championships this week who have 1, 2, or 3 wins. And if they upset somebody, that's great, but they beat teams that have 1, 2, or 3 wins. So I don't, what did they really accomplish? They beat another team that's not very good. And I say this as someone who played on a 1-8 team. We didn't deserve to have a voice in the tournament format, or, you're still including everybody. I mean, that's to me, that's great. You should do that. And I'm not saying I like some aspects of the blind draw. I think you could still blind draw. You could have a show. You could blind draw, even the smaller classes. You could do maybe even seed the top 2 in those 8-team sectionals and blind draw the rest of it. But you could also build in a show of like, here's how we're seeding these 2 tournaments. But I don't know. I said I was going to get off I'm not going to beat a dead horse. I haven't even talked about this really for the last 5 or 6 years, but it just kind of riled me up again last week, seeing all these 1 versus 3 games.
So what's coming up this week? What's on the docket?
I'll have Cathedral. I've got actually a story on Cathedral's coaching staff who's been through some real health issues here in the last year or so. And then I'm actually covering the Cathedral Lawrence North game, which I think should be really good, on Friday night for that sectional championship. And HSC Fishers also plays. We'll have coverage of that as well, but that should be a really good game. And then, like I said, I've got, basketball, the city preseason stuff just was announced this morning. I'll have lots of basketball coverage here in the next 2 weeks as well. This is really probably my busiest month of the year. So
tell me about it. You don't say. Yeah, I hear you. Football is raging still, and it's not just that. And I like to pretend to complain with how busy it is, but I've got nothing on Kyle. He's got to cover. You've got the football and the basketball. Do you have anything else you have to cover right now?
No, thank God. I mean, because that pretty much takes.
I was going to say, I mean, like, because I'm covering football and basketball, but I'm kind of covering one conference for the most part. So I cannot imagine the entire state. But he does an incredible job of it, as always. So make sure you're giving him a follow at the Indy Star and, of course, on Twitter. Kyle, can't thank you enough, brother. Look forward to seeing what happens next week.
Absolutely. We'll break it down. Thanks, Jim.
You bet. Kyle Neddenriep from Indy Star joining us here. More coming up in the next hour of Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
I've got that Leary clip.
Cool. Thank you.
Jim, I feel like you and I will be in the same boat on this. Does it annoy you when people think that Christmas starts on November 1st?
There are people that I know that I will not comment on that have either a tree up already or Christmas lights out. Now, there is two sides to the story, and I am going to give some understanding, and this will be a good conversation, actually.
Okay.
Let's have that conversation. That's a good question.
Yeah, we'll just stop it right there. Excuse me. All right, here we go.
So there couldn't be a better time to build a new home with Property Shore Construction. Now building exclusively south of Bloomington within the Stonecrest Golf community. Choose from one of the gorgeous Stonecrest Signature Series house plans. We have several lots available with scenic views of the golf course. Contact Amy Rhoda with Rebesco Real Estate for additional information. 812-583-0919 or go to mystonecrestliving.com. That's mystonecrestliving.com for more details. This segment is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Hey, welcome back. Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for the second hour already of Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Oh yeah, what are we just talking about?
During the break, let me turn my camera back on. During the break, we were talking about, because it is November 1st, some people believe that this is the official, or I should say the unofficial start to the Christmas season. There's people who break out their Christmas trees, the decorations, the lights, and I'm not one of those people. If it were up to my wife, she'd probably put the tree up today. But we normally don't put up our decorations and that kind of thing until later in November. And if it were truly only up to me, I'd wait until after Thanksgiving. But we you know, there's compromise, there's give and take. But there's there's a very large group of people who believe and love to begin Christmas right now, November 1st.
Well, there you go. I agree, and I understand. And this was sent to me by a great fan, Gritty. Thank you so much. Last year's Christmas decoration. Here we go. This was it. There's two sides to it now. I'm trying to become more agreeable. Normally, I'm like, dude, we haven't even had Thanksgiving yet. But the other side is people go through a lot of work to.
They do.
Like for Halloween. I don't think anybody goes to more work than those people who really do the Halloween decorations, which are awesome. And those should be up October 1st.
And I feel like that's usually the case. I agree with that.
I'm with all of that. Christmas kind of gets screwed a little bit because you've got Thanksgiving that is exactly a month before, and
which technically October 1st to October 31st is exactly a month for Halloween decorations.
So it's like, it's kind of weird. Well, if you have Halloween decorations up, you can't have Christmas decorations up.
Yeah, that's it, because then you got to take it all down and then re-put things back up after them.
I'm good with. I'm going to extend I'm good with November 1st.
Wow!
Because someone pointed out that, you know what, I go to all this trouble. I'd like to enjoy it for as long as possible. And you know what? If that brings some happiness, hey, you know what's wrong with people being happy?
I get it. It's just, to me, I think there is a point where it's too early. I think you got to have a little bit of a buffer between Halloween at least. You can't just go immediately into Christmas. Give it a couple weeks, then do the Christmas stuff.
Well, it just reminds me that cold weather, just winter. I think it makes me think of winter. But I'm gonna go ahead and buck tradition, and boy, that thing's barely hanging on. I don't have the hooks for these things. So you just stick them on and hope they stay. For those of you that are listening on radio, I know you can't see that I just broke an ornament on my little bitty Christmas tree. So that is not going to work out. But I have busted out the Christmas tree as John was talking, and I'm slowly breaking this thing.
There you go.
Completely. All right. So back it goes, just to being stuffed on there. And I hope you stay there. And away you go. But yeah, I'll leave the Christmas tree out. There we go. It'll probably get moved around. But you know what? Hey, do what if it makes you happy. If it makes you happy,
there we go.
Do it. Do what you want. Justin says not until Friday.
No. He's answering somebody about when Indiana plays again. Indiana men's basketball.
Oh, yes. So I saw someone mentioned earlier that the second exhibition was tonight, and I'm like, well, that's this Friday against Marion. The women's team, however, does play tonight, I believe. Dwayne chiming in that Gritty already has 2 trees up.
Man.
Is that like 2 thumbs up?
I guess so. Philip says no Christmas music until Black Friday. I'm on board with the music specific.
I am absolutely on board with that.
I like
Because
so
that
Dustin
will
Shooty and I
just
were
wear
talking,
me out.
and we can maybe ask him about this tomorrow. He loves like Christmas jazz music, like the instrumental stuff. I don't
Hey,
mind
I'm
that
cool with
because
that.
that's not really Christmas specific. It may have a bit of a Christmas vibe to it.
Yeah,
But
I don't
if
want to
it's not
hear
like I don't need
over
to
and
hear
over.
Jingle Bells or any of that stuff until
Dreaming
yes.
of a white Christmas.
By the way, best Christmas song is the one Chestnuts Roasting on an Open Fire. I can't think of what the name of it is, but that's the best Christmas song.
Maybe Chestnuts Roasting on an Open Fire.
I don't think that's the name of it. I think it might just be called the Christmas song, if I'm being completely honest.
That is
either way. Let's move forward. If you want. We can talk Christmas in a month.
The Texas Rangers are up 3-1 in the World Series. For those that are watching that, the Raiders, they fired their coach and their general manager. And if you were not with us earlier, we mentioned and talked about Central Michigan. Oh, and I found that article I was looking for. Central Michigan is investigating whether Connor Steins was appearing as part of their staff on their opening a game against Michigan State this year, which just continues to make this Michigan story all the more mind-boggling. Not only that, the Athletic surveyed 50 FBS coaches and asked them to assess the seriousness of Michigan's allegations, where it rates on the wide spectrum of dubious behavior in sports, and there have been many, how they now view the Wolverines' recent success, and more. So more than a dozen head coaches offered their takes, as well as coordinators, assistants, analysts, staffers from all 10 FBS conferences. They've got a graph here. How severe are the allegations against UM on a scale of 1 to 5? 23, the majority, a vast majority, puts it at a 5 out of the 50. And then another 16 put it at a 4. How it's at a 4, I don't know. How is this not? This is egregious. I mean, the Central Michigan thing just puts it over the top. I mean, that's almost hilarious. The only thing that would have been funnier and better is if he had been posing as a Central Michigan ball boy on the other sideline, which teams have that. They have ball boys on the other sideline to getting balls in because teams use their own footballs. So they've got to get them in and make sure that when possessions change, they don't go the right way and all of that. But most in college football, I had never heard of anything quite like what is reportedly going on at Michigan. As I said, almost half of the coaches rated it as a 5. The average score of the 50 coaches was 4.2. Only 2 ranked it below a 3. And those are probably coaches that have obviously had done some dubious things themselves, I'm going to guess. One says, it's easy to call plays when you know what the defense is, said a Pac-12 head coach. It's a huge deal that someone went to another game and filmed all of their signals. That's Spygate stuff. They were flying all around the country? ? It's crazy. The Wolverines reported paper trail of tickets purchased in Stein's name has only added to the intrigue and outrage. Quote, in some ways, they should be held accountable for just sheer stupidity, said a Sunbelt coach. They could have done this for years and years and never been caught, and if they've just been smart about it. A Mountain West linebackers coach who rated the seriousness of the allegations as a 4 was just as baffled by the recklessness of the alleged scheme. If you're going to do it like that, at least be subtle about it. They were so arrogant and brazen and didn't hide it at all. It just showed me how much they didn't care about the rules. That's one of the few rules that nobody is brave or stupid enough to just step over, one staffer at an SEC program said. My God, what idiots. Doing it is one thing. Getting caught is entirely another. Well, yeah, whatever. But we knew they had a signal guy. This Navy SEAL or something, said one former Big Ten analyst. Wow. Styons is a graduate of the Naval Academy and a retired captain of the Marine Corps. We were very concerned about it. Our head coach was super concerned about it. In 2021, Michigan pass rushers, Aiden Hutchinson and David Ojabo had these hand signals for run pass. But we figured that was legit. It got us in the mindset that they were looking for tips and tells. That isn't a coincidence. We never would have guessed it was this deep. So there you go. This is from a Big Ten analyst. Now, is this the Big Ten Conference? I don't know. I'm guessing that's from a school, but saying that they knew that they had this Navy SEAL guy who was focusing on signals. So this is something that's been known for a couple of years now by people. But my biggest question that has not been asked, to my knowledge, this information was provided to the NCAA by a third-party private investigative group. Who hired them and why? Well, obviously the why is known. Who hired them and when? That's what I want to know. Why has nobody asked that question? I think that is, did a school do this? A certain school to, well, as Michigan would say, a certain school to the south? If you're in Indiana, a certain school to the east? Because that's plausible. Ohio State beats Jim Harbaugh at Michigan 7 straight years. Things were looking bad. They had to do a contract renegotiation to lower his salary. So there's that. He won't be. There's no way Jim Harbaugh is in the Big Ten next year. Now, something I heard yesterday, and I cannot remember who I heard it from, was that I lost. Damn it. Lost my train of thought. That message came in. But Michigan, there's no way that they can't be punished this year, that they have to be punished this year, in my opinion. If not, you're allowing them to win by cheating. And then you're going to punish. Harbaugh's going to be gone. Oh, I know what I was thinking of. Now, I heard that there is potential, and I do not know if this would be true or not, but if Harbaugh is suspended by the NCAA again for this matter, there is a possibility the National Football League would recognize that. That would be unprecedented in my knowledge. Now, in basketball, coaches that cheat, get caught, often receive what's called a show cause for X number of years. Hey, he's got a 5-year show cause. 10-year show cause would be death sentence. But a show cause means if he tries to go to another NCAA school, they're going to have to show and give a cause why he should be allowed, because he's been suspended. I cannot, if the NFL recognizes and the show cause, now that would be problems for Jim Harbaugh. Deserved? You're damn right. Absolutely. Absolutely. But what did they do against Bill Belichick? Their cheating was just the same. Hell, they maybe worse. They were doing that kind of stuff, Spygate. But then you had the deflated footballs. There's been multiple things. Usually when somebody's cheating, they're not cheating one way. They're figuring out, okay, we can do this. Now, what else can we do? Trust me, if they're cheating, they're not cheating in just one way. And in past life, cheating was paying people. Well, now you can pay everybody. And Michigan has no problems paying people, making $7 or $6 million a game. They're a money train. So, but we'll see what happens. Does he get punished? We've got to take a break. Got more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, brought to you by our good friends down at Sellersburg at Reynolds Family Dentistry. You need that championship smile. Go see Dr. J. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
When is a good day to get, I don't want to say this out loud, but
Just text me and I'll try to give you an answer. I'm going to use the restroom.
where did that go? That'll help me. How about, oh yeah. Oh,
All right, I'm back.
I already did it. I sent it for next.
Okay.
This helps. This helps a lot.
I've got that Leary thing. If you want to talk about Mackenzie Mbako,
I do. Mackenzie Mbako. Let's see. Let's see. What am I looking for? Not that. Right here. Yep. And where's the stupid question? Search. There we go. Mm-hmm. Damn it.
all right, here we go.
And now, fresh seafood. Chop Shop Market and Table has the largest selection of in-house made products around and everything you need to make a gourmet meal at home. Or pick out a tomahawk steak or a grouper filet and enjoy it cooked to perfection in Chop Shop Steakhouse. Chop Shop Market and Table, a part of the Wow Food Group, is your butcher, baker, and fish house, no matter where you live.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville and Evansville. Pizza, burgers, beer. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. It is Wednesday, the 1st of November. Appreciate everybody being with us here at the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Wherever you're listening, how are you listening? And if you are following us on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button. It's crazy how many listeners we have that are not subscribed. It actually blows my mind. It's like 60% that are not subscribed, which we're grateful for you, everybody. But it would be incredibly helpful if just hit that subscribe and notifications bell to never miss the content that's coming, because it's not just the daily show with all of our great guests. Normally today, one of those examples where we had multiple people have to cancel at the last second for assignment issues. But as we hit basketball, got plans for lots of other things, trying to make it more fun. Maybe some pregame shows. What would you think about a weekly Wednesday night program? Since I checked the schedule, and Indiana only plays 3 times on Wednesday. You know what? I'm going to break it down to the days, because I'm surprised at how many Friday games they have. It's more than one. I thought that the Friday would be like exhibition and that's going to be about it, but nope. I've seen more. So there's not a day of the week, to my knowledge, that they don't play on. So we'll be trying to get that to you. But Wednesday is the lightest day. The Inside Indiana Football with Tom Allen will be coming to a close here in about 4 weeks. So that'll allow us to do that about the time as the season is kicking into gear. So think about that. Give me your comments. Would love to see it. But most importantly, each and every one of you, if you would hit the subscribe button, if you're following us on YouTube, that would be tremendous. And even if you follow us on one of the great stations like 97.7 WREF, the Ref, ESPN down in Evansville, or up in the region, the voice of the region, 1230 AM, 104.7 WJOB, or over in Fort Wayne on 1380 The Fan, Fort Wayne's only sports station. In case you missed the broadcast, we're here on YouTube at all times, so make sure you just hit that subscribe button, because there's also a lot of content, like I say, that we put up that you can get, whether it's one-on-one interviews, post-game reports, pre-game. There's just going to be a ton of content that you can access that you might miss out on if you're not a subscriber. So please hit that subscribe button. Gratefully appreciate you. Joe Tipton spoke with Liam Neely, and he's someone that you see online on social media. He used to do all of the edits, the so-called edits for all the kids, all the guys, the players. That's making those cool-looking scenes. And now he's a writer. But he sent out a tweet that said, "Hey, 1,000 likes and under, no, 1,000 likes was the original one. Or said, should I host a 3-way Instagram live with himself, Derek Queen, and Liam McNeely?" He said 1,000 likes on this tweet and he'll hit them up. Well, it received 1,000 likes in under 30 minutes. That's pretty impressive by the Indiana fan base. You got to tell you, no matter who they're responding to. And the latest is that Liam is down for it. Derek is still thinking about it. He had Liam on already, and he has made it more than known that he would like for his high school teammate to join him at Indiana and be his college teammate. And that would also bring together 3 Montverde former players, which would be pretty unique if Derek Queen is still here next year and doesn't have just a crazy year and heads off to the pros. But that would be wild. Derek Queen's announcement has not been made known yet when it's coming, but I can tell you one thing. It's going to happen within the next 2 weeks. I don't know that he takes it down to the limit of the 15th. I'm thinking max a week from this Friday. They like to do the Friday thing, it seems. So if it's going to be on a Friday, I'm guessing a week from this Friday, since there has not been an announcement this late in this week. It ain't happening this week. So I'll guess next Friday. And I know that he has listed 4 finalists, and that includes Kansas. I don't think that Kansas is actually still in the running, but you can never put Kansas out. Obviously, that would be dumb upon me to do that. But I think it's down. Houston is also listed in that 4. Personally, I think it is Michigan and Indiana. Those have been the 2 strongest for quite some time. I said Michigan. I meant Maryland. My fault. Maryland and Indiana. Maryland being closer to home for Derek Queen. But I don't know how much that matters to these guys anymore, because they used to look at college as probably a 3 to 4 year venture where they're going to be spending their time. Now they do not. As I've mentioned, Mackenzie Mbako does not want to be in Bloomington this time next year, and it has nothing to do with Bloomington. He wants to be where Trace Jackson Davis is and Jalen Hood Schifino. And speaking of Trace Jackson Davis, I got to tell you, let me be the first to say how wrong I was on what he would be able to do in the NBA. He has been a player when given the opportunity. Yeah, I know he got a double-double in his first game, but he's done well since. He's playing, man. And that is nothing but great news for Mike Woodson, for Indiana fans, because if you think they're not going to ring that bell, you're wrong. That's a bell for Derek Queen right there. Indiana is, if they can continue that trend, that creates momentum. Indiana's not quite there yet with the real momentum. I mean, they've got it going, but it's not going like Duke has landed 3 5-star recruits and a 4-star for the 2024 class. That's going. That's stout. I mean, that's stout. Indiana can still end up with a pretty damn good class. You get Derek Queen, that's 2 5-stars. they're not done. There was a point guard that has reopened his recruiting. There are just always things that will happen and change, and it depends on the success of this current team, or more importantly, the players. Philip says, Kalel Ware, Malik Renew, Mbako. Yeah, you called him Mtaco. Oh my goodness. Don't start that. That's what he'll be hearing in every opposing gym this year. McNeely and Queen, no way to have all five on the team and happy. Also, who's going to handle the ball? Well, you don't start them all at the same time, Philip. You can't have them on the floor at the same time. You're going to have two guards out there. But they're not playing all 40 minutes. And Woody does not. Last year, Trace Jackson Davis and Jalen Hood Schifino were playing 38 minutes a game out of 40. You'd rather not have that. You'd rather have guys that are playing 25 minutes a game, maybe. And your second unit, not far behind that. Because if you have a group like Kalel Ware and Malik Renew, Mackenzie Mbako, and then if you have Liam McNeely, Derek Queen, Gabe Cups coming in, that's already, I know it's only 3, but that's already better than a lot of teams' starting lineups. That's how you win championships. That's how you do it. That is a team that is fresh all the time, that has an abundance of weapons to throw at you. That makes it damn near impossible for the opposition. How are you going to defend that? There's no way to have fresh defenders that good to guard all of those guys. So, but I do agree. I don't expect to see all those guys on the team at the same time. Like I said, Mbako he hopes to be a one and done. This is Kalel Ware's second year in college. Is he going to be a two and done? So there's no, we don't know who's going to be there and who's not. And Jamie points out very wisely that all of these kids, these players, they've already left home to go to play at Montverde. So, and they did that to get better. They did that to take a step in getting closer to their hopes and dreams of playing in the NBA. Well, they're going to do the same thing with college. What is the best step to get me in that direction? Mike Woodson is making Indiana look more and more like one of those steps to take. And that is what they look at, in addition to NIL. And Indiana is fine in NIL. Everything else, fan base, nuts, facilities, great. So Indiana is almost there. The last ingredient, winning. They want to win. They want to be a part of a winning program. And that means a winning program now. So that's a part of it. Indiana, they need to do that this year. How far up in the Big Ten can they finish? That's going to be a question this year. I think we've got to take a break. We've got more coming up. See, the truth is on. We'll be back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio. We'll hear from a quote from Todd Leary yesterday that is just still amazes me when we come back. Brought to you by our good friends Bubba's 33 down in Clarksville. If you're down in southern Indiana, right off of I-65 on Veterans Parkway. Pizza, burgers, beer, Back right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
In the
Do 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 do. Holy shizakas. Hey, when you send out the show on Twitter, would you mind adding it to Tyler Smith?
What do you mean?
Post it on his
He needs to
tag.
do that. He needs to just retweet it.
Okay, you can't tag him.
Actually, I might be able to tag him, but I thought you meant post it from his thing.
I'll see if he can remember. He'd have to remember to do it every day. What? Is there any way you could just send it to him somehow and he can repost that?
I'll take care of it. Don't worry about it.
Well, I'm trying to think. So,
I mean, all he needs to do, if he's on Twitter, all he needs to do is
well, I know,
retweet
but
it.
I know, but that's he has to remember every day to do that, and that's
And
something
that's
he would
on
not.
him, right?
Well, I guess
I mean, it's
just
I've
an odd
retweeted
thing.
the show almost every day since I've been
Well,
working with you.
I get that, but you're the producer of the show, working on the show. He's not here on the show every day.
I mean, is he not regularly using Twitter though? Is kind of what I'm getting at.
Yeah, I'll ask him. Don't worry. What day is he's all right? He's on Thursdays.
Yeah, at 9:30. All right. 30 seconds.
Club at Eagle Point, and they have a sweet deal for all returning students, no matter where you go to school. At the Golf Club at Eagle Point, students can play for the rest of 2023 for just $299. That's right, play as many rounds as you like for just $299. That's better than a birdie. But you don't have to be a student to play at Eagle Point. Go online to set your tee time or call 812-824-4040. The Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by the Chop Shop, home of the Indiana football and men's basketball coaches shows. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Hey, welcome back. Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Wednesday, November 1st, 1st of November. Thanksgiving is just 3 weeks away from tomorrow, I guess, right? Crazy. College football playoff reveal comes out. Ohio State, a surprising number one. Haven't talked about this. We've talked about it a lot this year, and Kirk Ferentz's son, Brian, the offensive coordinator at Iowa, has a caveat in his contract, like all coaches should, that if he did not average, Iowa did not average 25 points a game this year, he was gone. Well, a lot of people said, "Oh, it's not going to happen." Well, it's because it's not. It's son, it's coach's dad, yada yada. The president put all that to rest. I think it was Monday, actually, but that just let him know that at the season's end, he's gone.
after he can stay with them through the bowl game, but his tenure with Iowa has come to a conclusion. Smart move by Iowa. Heath says, when does the Tom Allen replacement list come out? You know, I've said it on here over and over, and I've written it over and over and over, that there's just not going to be a change at the end of the season because of the buyout. Well, you're hearing it from me for the first time. I've changed my position on that. And that is a big, big thing. Barring Indiana winning at home against Wisconsin this weekend, in which they are a 9 or 10-point underdog? I'll have to pull that up and see, but regardless, I think that it's like a 9 or a 10-point underdog against Wisconsin, which after their performance against Penn State and the fact that Wisconsin lost their starting quarterback a while back, seems like a bit much, to be honest with you. But they know what they know. If I was betting that game, I would not bet. I would not give up that many points the way Brendan Sorsby is getting his sea legs. I keep using that phrase. There's nothing, not a better one to use. He's getting his sea legs. He's getting the snaps and the reps now that he did not get in week 2, or rather in week 3, in week 4, in week 5, in week 6. That's an entire month of games and practices that he did not get the snaps at number 1. A month in the season, in the middle of the season. Imagine what the offense could possibly look like had that been the case. And I will sit here and say, I told you so. I told you so. I said at the start of the year that should be Brendan Sorsby. And that wasn't a guess. I had talked to people, and it was overwhelming that Brendan Sorsby was just the better of the two. I didn't say by miles, but the better of the two. But the decision was made for the wrong reasons. And that has happened way too many times in this tenure. Bad decisions made for the wrong reasons. Reasons that were not based on what was best for the team and what was best to get the team to win. That is the problem. Again, you had it against Penn State. Settle it purposely, acknowledgingly, setting up for a damn tying field goal in the fourth quarter on the road, instead of going for it, trying to put pressure. And I'm not talking about fourth down here. I'm talking about 1st and 10 at the 21. And you've got them on their heels. If there's no way you do not try to win that game. And I understand. I do. We should have gotten Mitchell on today because I'd love to have that discussion, because he knows more about football than I do. He played at a higher level. I get that. And I respect that. But that doesn't mean just because you didn't play at the same level doesn't mean you can't learn things and know things. And I certainly don't know at all, but I think I know enough to base this opinion on the fact that that's the mentality. Let's go for the tie. Let's try to tie the game. And do what? What are you going to do with the tie game? What was the plan? With the amount of time left, what was the plan at that moment? Just to keep them off the board completely? Not even allow a field goal? Because if you put them, if you had gone for it and you had scored a touchdown, now you put them in a different situation. You put that team in a situation where they have to score a touchdown. They can't get close and kick a field goal. And that changes things entirely. But that didn't happen. And that is a cataclysm of decision-making for me. And that seals it. And I've said that over and over, like I said earlier, that I just don't see a change coming. If Indiana does not go on a 4-game winning streak in the Big Ten, I do expect there to be a change now. I hate to say that. It's not something that I wish upon Tom Allen and the staff. There are guys on that staff that have been here for 13 years. They're a part of the community. Hell, Tom's been here for 7 years. So it's not something that I say with happiness or want. It's just we speak the facts, man. I try to hold off on that. But this is where the rubber meets the road. Now, what if Indiana just shocks the hell out of all of us, wins these 4 games? Because guess what? These 4 games are winnable by this team from a playing standpoint. But I don't have the confidence in the decision-making to be able to win 4 straight games. I don't have the confidence in the coaching decision-making against people like Luke Fickell, for example. Wisconsin is not a juggernaut. They're absolutely beatable. Indiana had the number 9 team in the country on their heels. Could have taken the lead with minutes left in the 4th quarter on the road, of all things, as a 30-point underdog. So, yes, they can beat Wisconsin. They absolutely can beat Michigan State. I'm missing one, John, and I know that there's Purdue at the end. I left somebody out there amongst the 4.
Who'd you already? So they play Wisconsin this week, then they'll play
this weekend, Michigan State,
Illinois, and then
Illinois.
Michigan State,
there we go. So they have to travel to Illinois. But I don't care. If they can play like they played at Penn State, Illinois is terrible. They're awful. They are god-awful since they lost their coach to Purdue, who has also been god-awful. So Michigan State, god-awful. You have them at home at least. So the toughest game is going to be against Wisconsin. I still think they can win that game. They definitely can win the other 3. And if that were to happen, well, you don't have to worry about making a change because that's an automatic contract extension. Then that puts Indiana in a completely different situation because as of right now, I have changed my mind and there will be a change at the end of the season, unless Indiana finds himself in a bowl game. So, Indiana basketball. Todd
Leary, huh?
I was getting ready to say Indiana basketball has their next exhibition game this Friday night against Marion. And after last week's game or Sunday's game against UIndy, the second half was great. But Todd Leary has been able to go to a couple of practices. He's a basketball junkie. Trust me. He absorbs this stuff. That's why when you hear from him, he can break the game down. He sees things that you and I do not see because he's played it. He played in the motion offense, which requires you to constantly make decisions. He knows what he's talking about. Period. End of story. And he made a comment yesterday that blows my mind because he is also someone who does not throw out big time, I don't want to say compliments, but doesn't put people on pedestals. He doesn't blow smoke. He doesn't say things that are outlandish ever. And this was all of those things. So this is what makes it shocking. Not that I don't believe everything he says, but because I do believe what he says. And what he said was crazy in a good way. Here's if you missed it yesterday, he's talking about Mackenzie Mbako. And there has been all the fanfare about him being a great shooter and amongst other things, but we didn't get to see it against UIndy. But here's what Todd said about Mackenzie Mbako.
I will put myself out on a limb and say this, and this is aggressive if you know what I think of this particular player. But I think Mackenzie Mbako is, if I said his name correctly, I think he is the best shooter Indiana has had come in since Jay Edwards. And I mean it. Yeah, he's that good. His stroke is that pure. And
holy crap.
If the speed of the game can get it to slow down a little bit to where, he's playing like a sophomore or a junior, he's going to surprise, maybe not surprise, he's going to produce what people think he should produce. And he is that good of a shooter. His stroke is legit. It's as pure as anyone I've seen since Jay Edwards.
That is mind-boggling. Jay Edwards was cold-blooded. He was a cold-blooded shooter. And I don't know that he means that he's as cold-blooded as Jay Edwards was, because Jay Edwards shoot the same shot with 10 minutes on the clock or 2 seconds on the clock. Didn't matter. It was the same shot, and it was more than likely going in. Dude was just one of a kind, silk. But since Jay Edwards, hell, Todd played with Pat Graham. He played with Calbert Chaney. He played with Eric Anderson. He played with Brian Evans. Just who he played with. That does not even include Jordan Hulls, AJ Guyton, people like that that have come through. And he's seen them all. He's watched them all. So that statement it has stuck with me because I believe it. He does not throw that stuff out just unwillingly. So that should give Indiana Hoosier fans pause for a little celebration there, because it's going to take him a minute to break loose, get in the rhythm of this offense. It's going to take him a minute for Indiana to get into that rhythm of getting him the ball at the right time against different defenses. But just hearing that is that's amazing. And look forward to seeing that. Indiana fans will just go nuts if that is the case, because it's something Indiana hasn't had. Not even on the level of any of those people I've mentioned, which were pretty damn good shooters. Todd was a good shooter. So it's yet to be seen. But he'll get an opportunity again this Friday as Indiana takes on Marion in their next exhibition Friday night. Of course, the Indiana women, they're in action tonight at the Simon Scott Assembly Hall, I believe, against, I forgot. I saw it and I forgot. So, but they're in action tonight.
1 minute.
Big thanks to Kyle Neddenriep, of course, from the Indy Star for joining us today. Make sure you always give him a follow. And to keep up to date, we'll see what's going on with Dairy Queen. Is his recruiting starting to wind down? I expect an announcement, if I had to guess, a week from this Friday, but that's a total guess on that. Looking forward to tomorrow on the program. John Boy, who do we got?
Dustin Schutte, Dustina
Oh,
Jones,
my.
Mr. Schutte, whatever you want to call him. He'll be back with us as my voice cracks. Excuse me. And Kristen Airy talk about the Pacers season so far. Oh, and
we'll
Tyler Smith, our new at thehoosier.com. Tyler Smith will be with us.
And we'll see about whatever else we can add to that along the way as well. Big thanks to Kyle, like I said. And I'm working on another special guest for next week that would be kind of cool. But we've got plenty coming up, plenty of guests in the lineup that you'll enjoy. Hey, man, I cannot thank everybody enough today for sticking with me on this solo broadcast mostly. Big thanks to John, the producer, for joining in as much as possible. Mostly, it's all up to you guys. I cannot thank you enough. As always, without you, we have no reason to be here. Please hit the subscribe button if you're following us on YouTube, or especially if you're not. Go ahead and subscribe. You'll be happy that you did. Tons of comment coming your way. We're back tomorrow to do it all again from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Until then, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.